Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 9 of FX's Atlanta, entitled Rich Wigga, Poor Wigga. I'm gonna resume reading the episode description because I think the episode description is a little pertinent. Because I said, earlier in this season when I was doing the videos on earlier episodes, I was saying that the episode's descriptions that they put on Hulu are almost kind of like the voice of the audience, issuing criticisms. Like they're like looking at the potential criticisms ahead of time and pointing them out in the episode description. Like that might change them. It doesn't, but that's what they're doing, it seems like. And I think this was interesting because I wonder what, as it pertains to this episode, what other people are going to say about it and how they're going to feel about it. I generally don't do that. I don't come up here and I don't know, let other people's opinions color mine. And I'm not going to do that in this case either. But I am curious how people react to this episode because it almost seems to be, I think, pushing buttons that people don't want pushed. And I think that, a lot of people have been putting in the comments that this season was written in like 2019. So a lot of these topics are going to feel dated. And this episode, again, feels like another one, again, pulled from the Twitter headlines about, we'll have conversations about, how black someone is or what makes you black. The standard conversation of like, okay, if you don't know how to play spades, you ain't black. That kind of shit. And I think that this episode doesn't feel as dated in topic as this one. This episode doesn't feel as dated in topics as the previous ones. But I think this is kind of like an ever-present topic in the black community. So I'm going to read the description and I'm going to talk about the episode a little bit. The description says, black and white episode, yawn, Emmy bait. Why do they hate black women so much? When I watched it, I was confused at first about the why do they hate black women so much. But then once I saw the person that they casted to play one of the roles in the show, it made a lot more, in this episode, it made a lot more sense. But before I get to that, I want to talk about kind of like the look of the episode because it seemed to be going for a lot. So it's in black and white. I think that's meant to be similar to the movie Passing. I'm not entirely sure if Passing came out when they were writing this, but it definitely had been out by the time they were filming it. So I could see that being a motivating factor in making it black and white, just because we see the same thing here, right? I think this character, Aaron, is supposed to be racially ambiguous, and I think putting it in black and white helps aid with that, but also it does, I think, like harken back to Passing, which is about, a black woman passing for white. And this actor, I think, too, like, even though it was in black and white and they made him look white, like, there was aspects of him I'm even like, I don't know, he might be black. Like, he might be light-skinned, like, trying to make it out. And I think the black and white, the fact that this episode was in black and white kind of helps aid in that confusion, especially at the end when we see him. It's like, okay, like, what the fuck's going on? But I also think that the character itself, Aaron, is also meant to almost be kind of someone who, as a person, it's kind of difficult to tell because we're looking at him, right, and he looks white, but he's got a black father. He has an absent mother. The father talks about him dealing with all the things that black people deal with. And I just thought it was an interesting decision to put it in black and white and to relate it to Passing. Because and when I say interesting, I think in this context, I mean that in a positive way. Because like I said, it does add to the racial ambiguity of the character, which this episode really relies on. But then also, I think you get a little bit of Hitchcock as well, right? Because, a lot of Hitchcock movies are in black and white. And then like the scene, everything that takes place pretty much after Aaron decides to make this flamethrower feels very much like a Hitchcock film. So I think that, the style of the episode, how it was filmed, the black and white, all that stuff, I think was done to pretty satisfying effect. I think it worked. The kid certainly looked racially ambiguous to me. And I definitely got a very big Hitchcock vibe with the not just the black and white, but just how that was shot, how they had like these overlaying transitions in the shots, the music, all that stuff. It felt very, very Hitchcock. So Aaron goes to Stonewall Jackson High School, and the kids outside are talking about going to Arizona State College. I don't want to say Arizona State University. It wasn't that. Arizona State College, which I'm assuming is a fictional place. And, they all seem like they're going. His girlfriend Kate's going. She got a scholarship. His friends seem like they're going. And we know that Aaron's not going because his father ain't paying for that shit because he ain't got it. And his father's not filling out the FAFSA, none of that stuff. So Aaron's not going, but he's lying to his girlfriend about going. So the seniors get called to the auditorium for a special guest speaker. The special guest speaker is a guy named, it was Robert Shea Lee. And he's played by Kevin Samuels. And I'm going to talk about this briefly, but because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But wow, like, what are the odds? Like, I mean, casting Kevin Samuels when Kevin Samuels is in the news like this, having just passed away fairly recently, I would say probably within like the past week. Wow, like that was freaky. Because like as much as this show tries to stay topical, like I just wonder what Donald Glover was thinking when he heard that Kevin Samuels passed and he knew this was the next episode to air. Like he's got to be thinking like, what the fuck? Like, man, like trying to make topics that are timely. And this season has felt dated again because of like, I think I agree with those in the comments who say it's because it was written so long ago. It does feel dated. And it does feel like ripped from Twitter headlines that we've been talking about for years. But if you wrote it in 2019, we still talking about the same shit on Twitter, like on cycles all the time. So it makes sense that it would feel like, man, we've been talking about this for 3 years and now Atlanta's talking about it. So that makes sense. But this episode felt really timely with that Kevin Samuels casting. And then it also refers back to the why do they hate black women so much? Which I think that's interesting too, because Donald Glover gets hit with that a lot. And then he even questioned himself about that. I don't know if you guys read it. He did an interview with himself. He even questioned himself about that and didn't answer the question. And then add on the fact that Zazie Beetz has like I said, what did I say like earlier this season? I'm like, I want to know what's going on with shit. I can't remember her fucking name of the show. What's her name on the show? Fuck. Why can't I remember her name? Well, that goes to show you how little she's been on the shit. Damn. Now it's bothering me. But she's had like 10 lines on the show. Like she hasn't been on here. I'm saying like, what's going on with her? Like we haven't seen her at all. She's never, she rarely talks when we do see her. And I'm like, I think like whatever it is that's going on with her is an interesting plot point that the show hasn't addressed. And so, so to have him, put the, why do they hate black women so much thing in there on the heels of him not answering that question when he interviewed himself, Zazie Beetz not really being very present in this season, and then the casting of Kevin Samuels. It's like, man, yeah, I could definitely see. That's why I said this is probably the most interested I've been in hearing other people's reactions to this episode, because I really do feel like he's poking the bear, kind of. Like, they're going to be sitting there like, okay, well, really? Does he really actually hate black women? But Kevin Samuels' character, Robert Shea Lee, decides he's going to donate $1 million to the school. He's going to change the name to Robert he says something like from this terrible slave owner or something like that, referring to Stonewall Jackson, to Robert S. Lee, as if that's not close to Robert E. Lee. And then that he's going to give scholarships. He's going to pay for the college of everybody in the school who's black. Everybody in the school who's black. And Aaron, he has a conversation about how shitty this is or whatever. And then he comes back to school and he's waiting outside of the auditorium. And there's people that are kind of like, I guess, auditioning for this scholarship, because I think another aspect of this episode is about black culture not necessarily being about your skin color, in the case of Aaron looking extra white, and then the guy at the end being Nigerian. It's not really about skin color. It's about who you are. It's about culture. And like, you can't just, that's another thing I think is going to fuck with people about this episode, is that you can just be black. Like, because they say, like, you could be whatever you want to be on the inside. You can dress however you want, but at the end of the day, if the cops pull you over, they're gonna see a black guy. So like, we collectively in the community acknowledge that you can just look, you could just be black just from being black. Like, it doesn't have to be cultural. You don't have to know what to mix with Hennessy. You don't have to know any of those other questions that they asked this guy. It doesn't have to be cultural like that, because at the end of the day, when people see you, they see a black person. They don't see your clothes or your answers to these questions. But at the same time, the white appearing character doesn't have the ability to answer the black cultural questions, and then the Nigerian character doesn't either, but he's black visibly. So there's a lot to say about that. But when he's going to audition, I don't think he's not purposely going. I think he just gets called in there, and someone calls him Redbone, which I thought was funny. But when the camera pans across the people waiting outside to audition, and if you watch this on FX, there's probably a lot that you didn't see. So I would implore you to, if you can, watch it on Hulu and go to that scene and pause it and try to look at everything in the shots. Because there's some really funny shit going on in the background of that shot that is really worth looking at. Like, there's the obvious thing, like you see like a white guy the first one is one of the better ones, like this group of non-black people singing If I Ever Fall in Love Again, which is wild. Then you see like a dude with one of those like brush for like to twist your hair up, but he's doing it on like, straight white hair. There's another dude get his hair braided. My favorite one, and this is a super background one, so if you're paying attention to the characters, you're not going to see it, but when Aaron is talking to the white guy with like the do-rag on, that's another one. Can you wave check me? Like, stop. But in the background, there's this one was funny as fuck to me, and I think it's because they didn't like show it to you. Like, you have to be looking away from the two people talking to see it. But there's two white guys by the entrance of the school who are like reenacting the Stankonia cover. Like, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it because it's funny as fuck, dog. Like, oh man, that shit had me rolling. The dudes reenacted the Stankonia cover. But Aaron gets asked, I'm like crying tears just thinking about that shit, dog. Like, what? Like, that is so random. But I mean, it's not random because, I mean, it's Atlanta. So, I mean, yeah, they would probably reenact some Outkast shit, but it's still funny. Like, I can't imagine him writing this like, yeah, let's have some white dudes like reenacting this Stankonia cover in the background. But anyway, Aaron's given this quiz about his blackness. He fails it miserably because how could he pass this? I was gonna like recite some of the questions he asked, but it turned into like a montage where they were asking so many. I'm like, I'm not writing all this shit down. But like, they asked him, what was the first one that, what do you mix with Hennessy? They asked him, fuck, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on all those fucking questions. There was a lot. I had them written down. But as he's leaving, Kevin Samuels compares him to Clarence Thomas, and somebody says off camera, he ain't that white. I thought that was funny too. But the casting of Kevin Samuels is kind of crazy here. Man, it's so coincidental. It's almost like it almost doesn't feel real. Like, how is this possible that this happened? But Aaron decides to burn the school down once he's upset at. Jesus Christ, I'm fucking up my words here. He decides to burn the school down because he's upset about not getting the scholarship and getting ridiculed like this. He Googles how to burn a flamethrower. He comes back and there's a Nigerian guy there too. And like I said, they exchange the circumstances surrounding them not getting the scholarship, and Aaron's kind of like, well, you didn't deserve it. You not black. It's like this again, the idea of what defines blackness is such a tired Twitter conversation, and it's like every episode, especially these ones that don't have the main cast, really feel like they feel so antiquated in topic. But it still turned into like this flamethrower fight, which I don't even know what that's really supposed to represent. But I think it kind of ties into like the idea of burning a black person alive or something like that was happened back when slavery, and when you can lynch people. Like this visualization has happened in many shows recently. I think Underground Railroad on Amazon had a scene like that where they burn somebody alive. So maybe it's like a more up-to-date version of that. But they get into this flamethrower fight, and right before it looks like the Nigerian kid's gonna kill Aaron, the police shoot him. I thought it was in the head at first, but it turned out it's in the shoulder. And then there's a great line when Kevin Samuels comes back to the school, and he sees the kid being taken away to stretcher, and he says that getting shot by the police is the blackest thing you can do. Which, I mean, shit, like, you could be it. It's tough to argue that, man. But and then he still gives this kid the scholarship anyway and pays for his medical bills. We just see Aaron in the background getting put in a police car looking sick. And then we fast forward a year later, and Aaron's working at what seems to be like an electronics store like Best Buy, and his girlfriend Kate pops up, and Aaron is now fully like making sure that he appears black as much as he can, given the circumstances that he experienced the year prior. He's got a chain on, he's got earrings, he's got his nice lineup, he's even got like a part coming across here. He's got he's talking black, he's brushing his hair every like 5 seconds. Like, it's crazy. And then he goes, can I be honest with you to Kate? And he says, I've never been more attracted to you in my life, which plays to the idea of black guys being attracted to white women, which is a nice way to kind of just like, that felt like, if you're a black woman watching this, you're probably a little pissed off about the Kevin Samuels casting. He doesn't do any of his shtick. And for the record, I do feel like Kevin Samuels shit is kind of a shtick. Like, I don't know. We're not going to talk about Kevin Samuels, but look him up. If you're somebody who doesn't know who Kevin Samuels is, look him up, and it will provide additional context to this episode. But the idea of Aaron going, I've never been more attracted to you in my life, and then looking in the camera and winking, kind of felt like a kick in the shin to black guys. Because like I said, the idea that black guys love white women. But interesting episode, lot to discuss here. I prefer to discuss it in the comments because there's so much nuance and so many ways to discuss what makes you black. But most importantly, what this episode says about it, with the ambiguous casting, the black and white, Kevin Samuels being in it, the questions that are asked, the statements that Aaron makes to the Nigerian guy about how he's really not black, what makes you black as far as Aaron goes, like he's got a black father, he's poor, he's, you know, all of these things, right? So I think this episode gives a lot to talk about. I feel like, as far as how I feel about the episode, I felt like it was fine. I didn't dislike it. I didn't think it was particularly profound either. I thought it was very heavy-handed in this in initiating this conversation, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty creative to do the black and white. I thought it was smart actually to do the black and white, to keep him racially ambiguous. And I thought the Hitchcock stuff, the Hitchcock look to it, I thought was pretty cool and creative. So it had some funny moments. It's a tired topic. That's my only complaint, is that it's a tired topic. You know, seeing the white guys pretending to be black, it was funny, but at the same time, it was like, okay. And this season as a whole, I think, has suffered from feeling antiquated. Like, it feels like this would have been the shit in 2019. But in 2022, it just feels like the show is continuing to rehash topics that they pulled from the Twitter headlines 3 years ago, that we're still either that we've been talking about for 3 years, or that we haven't talked about in 3 years, but we talked about it 3 years ago. So the show bringing it up feels dated. So still a solid episode to me, but you know, when I read the reviews from the critics, they seem to kind of be all aligned in like what happened here and what is this show, what is this doing? Because this is not on par with the first 2 seasons. But I believe next week is the finale. So until then, peace.